Hello, everyone. You're listening to the I Go with Ego podcast, bringing you guests with first-hand experience in studying abroad and seasoned personalities excelling in the workforce. Now presenting your host, Ego Kelly Ikakite.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the I Go with Ego podcast. And it's happy new month to everybody. Welcome to the month of April. It happens to be our 1 year anniversary of the I Go with Ego podcast. And I'm so grateful to everybody, grateful to my team, the wonderful guests we've had, all our listeners out there, and to my very special guest today, Kriti. Kriti, you're welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thank
Um,
you for having me.
Absolutely, I'm doing great. Thank you for honoring my invitation. I didn't know anyone else to bring on this wonderful celebration 1 year anniversary, but to bring you in and share your wealth of wisdom to my audience. Thank you.
Thank you. That's truly an honor. I'm so glad that our paths crossed in a very unconventional way, but
Right, Clubhouse.
I'm thankful. Yes.
Yeah,
Thankful to have met and thankful to, share those similar experiences of being and pursuing an international education.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, so would like to get to know you. My audience want to know who you are, where you're from, something exciting about you.
Yeah, I would love to tell a little bit about myself. So, thank you again for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Kriti Gopal. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am an international student at the moment. I was born and raised in Bombay or Mumbai, India. And then I came to the US at a very young age to pursue my undergraduate degree. I'm also the first person in my family to have a chance in going abroad to pursue an education. And I'm also the first in my family right now pursuing my doctoral degree at Indiana University, Bloomington in higher education. And so this is something I just started last year. And so still pretty new to the process, but yeah, this is who I am.
Yeah, well, congratulations for being the first, and congratulations on the doctorate. It's so much work to go on from the bachelor's to the masters and now doctorate. I know your family is so proud of you, and I'm very proud of you too as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I must quickly note and say that, of course, I'm very fortunate to have the support of my family, but I also know that this journey would not have been possible without the support I have received from other people. They say it's very common saying, it takes a village,
Yeah,
and it's very, very much true in my experience. And can't wait to tell you all more throughout this conversation.
that's great. I know they would love to hear all about it. All right, so would you want to tell my audience about your journey to America, how you ended up in America?
Yeah, really, it was all, a very small dream of taking a chance and
Mm,
seeing if I'm going to be able to apply and be accepted. So when I started way back, it's almost a decade now since I got my undergraduate degree, but really took a shot at trying to see if I'll be able to be successful. And I think my challenges came largely from not having a good understanding of what the education system here in the US looked like.
mm,
I think the way, well, I should say, at least in my own experience with the way, the college or the schooling system was set up, I didn't have a lot of resources at the time
mm,
to look outside of, what pursuing an international education would look like.
mm,
So I went to this third party, I guess, company or organization. Now they're popularly called as educational consultants who essentially do this job. They are in the job of recruiting students to colleges.
mm,
They help you with the application process. They will tell you how to prepare right from the get-go of, looking at colleges, looking at applications, understanding the finances, writing your statement of purpose.
yeah,
So yeah, I was fortunate again to have access to one of those. And I think also because I live, well, my family lives in the city, so we had access to that easily. But that didn't come free of cost. We had to pay a fee up front
yeah,
in order to, allow them to help me to understand how I was going to apply. So it was all sort of like a learning at the same time, like applying. A lot of it was happening simultaneously. And like I said, I just took a shot because I wanted to see. I really had good grades in high school. which I knew would land me into a good college or a university. What I didn't know was that would I be able to adjust to the cultural differences? Would I be able to adjust to the cold weather? All I knew about America at the time was that, it was very cold. And just the little I knew from like seeing whatever I'd seen in movies. Now I sound so naive saying all this now that, so many years have passed. But that's the truth. I really took a chance of sorts. And fortunately, in my case, it worked out to where I ended up applying with the help, of these consultants.
Yeah.
I was able to apply to a few selected schools. And that like narrowed down my process quite a bit in terms of, what school I was looking for and what degree I wanted to go for and such. I think ultimately the choice came down for me personally on the basis of cost, because as you may be aware, undergraduate education is very expensive.
Expensive.
And so, yeah, and so even if you go like to the largest state schools, education, obviously you as an international student, you end up paying a lot of money in tuition fees. So that's where my selection came down to. It came down to fees and just seeing, if the program really had to offer what I was looking for in terms of like the experience that I was wanting to have.
Yeah, I agree. It always comes down to the funds, the funding, how much we have to pay for school and how much the schools are willing to give us, in terms of scholarships. And that's the major factor that people, consider in terms of choosing a school and wanting to school in America, which is sad though, but it's the reality. So, yeah. So for someone that wants to come for their undergraduate degree in America, what is the breakdown of the steps like for them to know?
Yeah. Honestly, now I feel there are a lot more resources than before.
Yeah.
And I say this I'm sure even when I was trying to apply, I'm sure there were resources. I think I was just very like focused and I was narrowly focused in my search and my research. So the very first thing I would say is something that's amazing and that, most people have access to today is social media. And I say that because a lot of people have these resources and, a lot of their experiences already laid out. So if you were to just go into like a search engine and say, study abroad experiences, international student experiences, you are going to see a list of resources that come up. So I guess that would be the first step that I would suggest for any student. If you are interested in going to a country, just put it out. Just think of the words that come to your mind when you want to, study abroad. And pertaining to your search, just put it out on the search engine to see what comes up. And then I would say use the resources that you have. You may think this is again from my experience, you may think like you don't have enough, but the reality is the whole world is actually in your palm. And so it's all about how you harness that resource that you have in your hand. And by that I mean either the cell phone or a tablet or a laptop and the connection that it has to the internet. Obviously it brings you, closer to the world. And so keeping that in mind, start looking for groups or resources that might be more specific to your own country. Of course, this is not like the most traditional way, but if you're just very ahead, and I would recommend that you do this ahead of time, even if you're going to, go abroad, say in 1 year, there's no such time as perfect time. You can always do the research and then change your mind if things don't work out.
True.
In order for you to be able to even get to that process, you have to do the work, honestly. And so it's good to always do the research, always be ahead, think ahead, connect with people. That is how you're going to learn. You might make mistakes, you may not know everything, but the more you become vulnerable or the more you are open in telling your story and how you say that to other people, that is how your connection is going to grow. I think that is the one biggest thing that I've learned from my experiences so far. But I guess coming to more like the technical points, right? So I would say, think about like schools that you are interested in as well. If you're going into a particular field, there may be something that you already know, right? Like say, for example, a certain school is very good in the sciences, or a certain school is very good in the liberal arts program that they have to offer. So think of those things and then try to even search like best programs in the US or best programs in the UK. with the college names. You don't have to know all the names, but if you just say best school or best colleges, Google will produce that list for you, which
True.
is so amazing. And then from there, you can pick and choose, and you can make a separate list of what school you're very interested in. And then just look through. A lot of times, these universities have the information on their website, which is what is so amazing. So even before you get to the point of actually talking to someone specific, there may be information that you can gather just by looking and browsing. And I think that would be the very first step that I would recommend to anybody that just says, hey, I'm interested in studying abroad. Like, how do I do this? Research, research, and research.
Absolutely. It's and it's the reason why we do this. When we came, things were not this easy, but now we have so many people, so many people. I said, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Awesome. I said when we came, we didn't have all these resources, and we
yeah,
talk to now. That's what we're
that's right.
doing, to bring people like yourself, to tell people, hey, this is what you do. And I feel it's gonna be a good thing for people nowadays to make it easier for them to search for school. I know you're a multilingual person and that you're super and that's super cool, I wish I can't speak three languages, but they're all indigenous Nigerian languages as well. So what languages do you speak? And do you want to say a word in the three of them?
Yeah, would love to. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's actually very common for somebody that comes from India to speak more than one language, especially if they grew up there.
Yeah.
But irrespective of wherever they grew up, because typically you'll speak a language at home, and then there's a language that you will speak nationally, which is Hindi. And most schools also have English, depending on where you attend and what school you attend.
Yeah.
So that is how I speak at home. I speak a language at home, which is my mother tongue, Tamil, and then I speak Hindi, which was a second language that I had to pick up at school.
Okay.
Most of the instruction at school also happened in English, but then we also had to pick a second language. So I ended up speaking Marathi, which is a very common language in Bombay. So most people from Bombay would tell you that they speak those languages. So I guess I'll say hello and welcome, which is very common. You might know this already. It's namaste. And we usually join our hands and we say namaste. So it's very contextual too. So you can say namaste as you're greeting people in or welcoming them to your house. But sometimes we also say namaste when somebody is leaving your house, like if a guest is leaving, or if somebody's leaving the meeting or something. Very traditionally we would say namaste. So it's just like honoring the person that is in front of you as well. And that is why we put our hands together. So that's a quick something. Yeah. Tell me about you though. What languages do you speak?
Well, I speak three languages, indigenous languages in Nigeria. I speak Urobo, I speak Isoko, and I speak Ishekiri. So there are three languages in the south. My
Awesome.
mom, my dad, and my grandma. So pretty cool too.
Yeah. Tell me something in your language.
Mavo means how are you?
How are you? Okay.
How are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Lovely.
Thank you. Well, so what are the steps for students still who want to come here to study master's degree? What bachelor's degree? What are the master's students? What do they need, and what's the breakdown?
Yeah. So I know for most master's programs, they do require that you have the GRE.
Yeah.
And depending on business programs, they might even require that you have the GMAT. So in terms of preparation, while you're still looking for the names of the schools that you're wanting to attend, you probably want to look specifically at the admission requirements, because each school is slightly different. While most of the schools will tell you, the application fee, statement of purpose, resume, they are going to ask for those GRE scores or even TOEFL scores in some instances if you don't have your undergrad from the US, because there are these language requirements that you have to meet. So those are things I would say early on as you're looking at the university names, simultaneously look at that as well, because, well, if anything, the last year has been a good, teacher in how we need to prepare ahead and how we need to be more conscious of where we are investing our time and energy. And so if you do need to prepare for those exams, you might also need, additional help, or you might need additional coaching to prepare for the GRE or the TOEFL.
Yeah.
And then you have to also appear for them, right? Before you submit your application, because you need those scores as a part of your application. So I would definitely recommend looking into those as well. And again, you can always prepare ahead of time, even if you're not applying in the upcoming year. I think the GRE scores are good for 5 years. I could be wrong, don't quote me, but I'm guessing they are. So if that's the case, then that's one thing that you've already gotten out that you can tick in the list of things to do. So that might be a smart way to, start preparing ahead for your journey in applying. The next thing is finances, right? Like we had discussed in the very beginning, um, international education only keeps getting expensive.
True.
And not just international education, I think college in general keeps getting very expensive. And so, with that, even though you may be fortunate to get a scholarship, you are going to have expenses like that of your living, the food that you're going to eat. And that can also vary drastically depending on where you choose to go to school. I didn't go to California, but that's one of the main reasons why, because even though the fee structure was very similar, it was a little bit higher, but in that same range, the living expenses were drastically different.
Yep.
And that is true for any place. If you're going to go to a school that is in the downtown area of like a city or even a major city, then the living expenses are going to be very difficult or higher. Yeah. So you want to think about those things too. And again, that's why I said earlier that if you do connect with resources through social media, oftentimes you will find students who are in these programs that you might want to go to as well. And that is where you can find that one-to-one peer support, because essentially these students will exactly tell you what they did. And it's almost like you can learn from their living experiences to what you shouldn't do. And that might be a great teacher as well. And not only that, but you might also end up making good friends before you even go to that place. And so once you're there, you can also like fight that feeling of homesickness or even feeling lonely. I think something that's not discussed quite a bit are the cultural challenges and the differences that also exist, that are also very much a part of that international experience of moving to a foreign country, right? So how do you handle the stress of academics and all this pressure of wanting to do well in a new country, while also making sure that you have the sense of community that you do need to thrive and make the most? So I guess if I have to pick top three points or summarize that into top three, I would say definitely look at all the application requirements and then make sure that you have at least a sense of how your finances are situated in terms of your living expense, in terms of your tuition expenses. And then the third thing is mostly your sense of community. How are you going to do that for you, so that when your family is not with you, you still have people around you that are going to be supportive of you and help you make the most out of your experience.
I agree. I agree totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's hard. It's hard to, coming to a new place, not knowing nobody, and different culture, different people, different weather, different food. The food is
Yeah.
food is yes, the food. So
Yes. Oh, that's very true. Yeah, that is something I didn't touch on, but the food is, yes, a big part of what is going to change for you.
yeah,
I mean, there are places where you might be able to find things from your country, but it may not be exactly the same. So
true.
I'm actually so glad that you brought that up. So you need to think about that as well.
I agree. All right, I know you're currently doing your doctorate degree, like you said, and you're passionate about higher education. Would you want to talk about the importance of higher education today?
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, the one reason why I stuck out. So I'll tell you a little bit about my career. I did communication in my undergraduate degree. I wanted to be a journalist. And very quickly, I found out that, anywhere around the world, if I had to be a journalist, I had to have that very like advanced level of training. And that was going to take a few years for me to work on. So I actually changed my path. And as soon as I got here on campus, the one thing that I did was networking. And it wasn't easy to do at all, because how do you go on a college campus without knowing a lot of people? How do you actually talk to people and tell them who you are? And why should they hear your story anyway? Because you're just another college student, so it doesn't actually matter. But what I did was that, and it took a lot of practice. It took also a lot of learning in the process to understand that, okay, this was a tactic that I applied, it didn't work, I'm going to apply a different tactic. And I kept trying. I think that is what got me into the system and got me into where I am today. So all through my undergrad, I gained a lot of experience working in different offices on a college campus. And that eventually, many years later, translated into my interest in higher education because I saw students just like me who came to a college campus and they would struggle in terms of making that connection because you know how universities are set up here. They're typically very focused on, advising or helping students just get situated into the semester. But a lot of that cultural adjustment, is not actually supported. Or sometimes it is supported, but it gets lost in the process of where the student also is in terms of how well they can adapt to those changing situations. And I think that is why I still want to be in higher ed. I want to be somebody that can one day be an advocate for other international students because I know that that journey is not easy. And it takes so much for a student to leave everything behind in the pursuit of, wanting to complete their educational dream. Or in many instances, as students may say, the American dream of wanting to, pursue an education, wanting to do better than what you already have within your family. And I think the importance of higher education, I think, is huge, but it's very undervalued. I think people don't actually realize how much you can do with a degree. And sometimes a lot of it is just lost in the translation of, wanting to get past college, wanting to get a job and be done. But I don't think that's where it ends. I think as a college student, I think you can always be a lifelong learner, whether that is, applying those skills in your job or even just in the daily conversations and daily life that you're living. And so that is also something that I'm very like conscious of, but I'm also like learning that. And that is what I want to do, I think, going forward in my doctoral journey. I not only want to be an advocate and help in, telling the stories that international students live beyond the scope of, who they are and what they bring. Because I think there are still a lot of assumptions about, international students in general. The largest one being that they are a monolithic group, and they're not. And so that is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And you'll oftentimes find me advocating for those issues around campus.
Absolutely. For that, thank you so much. So, what before I let you go, would you want to tell anyone who wants to follow the same path you followed, and how can they reach you?
They say that my my dad actually always tells me this. It's a very common saying, right? Sometimes you're trying to achieve, and they say sky is the limit. Well, I want to take it up one notch. This is what my dad says. He says the sky is not your limit. Actually, the sky is of course in your limit, but you can go much more higher than that. You have the universe, and that's what you should be aiming for. You should be aiming for higher than the sky. And it's not an easy journey, but as you trust and believe in yourself, and you know that this is what you want, you're going to be fine, and you are going to get it. You just have to believe, and you have to be very open to learning. Don't ever let the world tell you, and this is for anybody that is aspiring or wanting to go abroad from wherever they are in trying to pursue an educational journey. Do not ever fall short or sell yourself short in thinking that you don't have the skill to, or you don't have anything new to offer, because you do, and believe in that and trust that. And as long as you keep an open mindset with wherever you're going and with whatever you're doing, and by that I mean willing to ask questions, willing to accept your defeat, willing to learn from those mistakes, helping others. It's not a race. I think a lot of times, even I have been taught and conditioned to think that it's a rat race. It really is not a race at all. It's unfortunate that from a very young age, we fall into that system and being conditioned that we have to fight against the others. We don't. And as long as we all work together, it's going to work out. But that all starts with yourself. So you have to believe, and you just have to keep going and keep fighting and keep asking. Yeah, that's my biggest advice always.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think it's we all needed to hear that. The reminder that it's not just a rat race and we are in this together. Together is the most important. thing, because no man is an island, no woman is an island. Everyone will need to work together to achieve success. So to end on a light note, if you could swim with the dolphins or go skydiving, which would you pick?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Mm,
I do have a very big heart for wildlife.
okay.
So it's definitely going to be the dolphins.
Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah, I would love to see, but I don't know, that's very difficult. I think skydiving is also pretty exciting because you can see, I guess, the dolphins from the top, but
Right. I'm very
but
scared
I
of
pick the dolphins.
Oh, no, I agree. I will pick the dolphins too myself because heights, I'm scared of heights. No.
Oh no.
Well, thank you so much, Kriti. You see why I brought her in here. She's a vast wealth of resource. She's a good person. She is someone that's willing to help people at all times when you reach out to her. So thank you for being my guest. Thank you for being our special guest in this our 1 year anniversary. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the team, and we're super grateful.
Thank you so much. And yeah, that's the last thing I would also say. I'm more than happy to chat with you if you need the help. I'm happy to tell you. I've told you that I've gone enough through college here. But the one thing is, again, I'm not an expert, but I do know this. So the way it has worked for me, it may not work for you, but I can definitely help you with resources that will equip you to find your path. So I'm happy to chat with anyone that is looking for that help. And thank you so much again for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Don't forget the COVID is still out there. Please social distance. Please wear your mask. When it's your turn to get the vaccine, please get the vaccine because I will be the first on the line when it's my turn to get the vaccine. Social distance. And thank you for listening. I'll see you all another time. Have a wonderful time.